Welcome everyone to DWG's Technology Exchange. I'm Nicole Carter and we're very pleased that you've joined us for this session in the DWG Institute's educational schedule, where our mission is to guide you in your technology evaluation journey. I'm here with my co-host, Andrea Brandt, with the support from many of our DWG team spread over 2 continents. Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Nicole. Hi, Nicole. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Today, in our DWG Technology Exchange, we are going to be featuring and discussing the evolution of the digital workplace and how solutions like Beezy and Microsoft Teams and Viva fit in. We're also going to be talking about the digital workplace beyond Microsoft.
Now I'm really interested to see this basically because as Viva's release is so recent and topical and everyone's so keen to see how it fits into the wider Microsoft 365 landscape and how it all integrates with existing systems and platforms. I know that Beezy's got a wealth of experience in this, so it'd be quite good to get some great insights.
Absolutely.
Before we dive into our discussions, I'll hand over to our technical producer, Rose Miller, to make sure everyone's set up comfortably with Zoom. I know we're experts. There you go, Rose.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nicole. So just before we kick off, we'd like to ensure a smooth flow for the hour. So I just want to go through some navigational tips for how best to use the platform and how you can interact with us and best viewing throughout. So there's a couple of ways to view the session. You can set your screen to gallery view by clicking the top right button in the top right of your screen, or you can set it to speaker view. Most of our presenters will be sharing their screen, but for moments of sharing and discussion, the speaker view is preferable so you can see the presenter in full. Won't be as awkward as an image of me there. And even better, keep your screen on full screen by clicking that option also on the top right of your screen. To set Zoom so you can view the participant list and chat side by side with the presentation, click the chat and participant options on the bottom panel, as you can see there. And in the participant list on the left-hand image, if you're happy to share, we like to have everyone's company name added in brackets after their name, so you can view who your fellow attendees are and where you're coming from. You can do this by hovering over your name in the participant list and clicking on More, that should appear, and selecting Rename in the drop-down. As for participating, we'd love to hear from you. It's an interactive event. We want to hear ideas, insights. Everything you share is always important to the discussion. So please do submit your questions in the chat panel by clicking the drop-down menu, ensuring it's set to everyone, as you can see on the image. And if you stay on mute, that would just help us with the flow and timing of the session, as we've got so many of you on today, which is fantastic. But we'll definitely get those fed into our hosts and we'll add that into the discussion today. Please be aware that the session is being recorded for future playback and the recordings will be published publicly on DWG's website. Okay, so if you'd like any help today, technically, please do get in touch with me in the chat panel, drop down to my name, Rose, and I'll jump in and help you. Right, without further ado, back to Nicole and Andrea to kick us off.
Oh, thanks very much, Rose. So I know that everyone's Zoom experts, but it's quite good to go over to some of those basics sometimes. So thanks so much. We can now set the scene and clarify expectations for everyone. So we try to make DWG Institute events interactive, yet we also want to learn from our expert experience guests today. So we have to strike a bit of a balance. Our main session will be 1 hour long. So to manage the timing and flow of the program, we invite you to engage in the chat panel with each other, with us, and with DWG's Executive Director, Ed Taylor. The Beezy team will also help us answer some questions directly in the chat panel and some in the Q&A portions of the program, including the optional overtime session as well, which follows on straight after. You might want to put where you're dialing in from. Is that an antiquated term, probably? in the chat panel at the moment as well, because that gets everybody started, we find. We'll start on the main event in just a moment with Beezy showcasing their approach, and we'll have a couple of short breaks for questions before we round out this main session. But we do find that having the optional overtime session at the end allows a bit more breathing space for these questions. So you're invited there to engage informally with our guests, the wider Beezy team, and each other at that point as well. So if you're able to stay on beyond the first hour, you'll have an opportunity to dive a bit deeper into some of the topics we've discussed today, or anything related that you'd like to share or get insights on. So we'll get started, and over to you, Andrea.
Great, thanks, Nicole. I guess we're zooming in, is that? Depending on the technology you use, I guess you have to ing anything. Looks like people are joining us from all over the world. Hey, I see a couple folks from California. Welcome. I'm here in the Bay Area as well. But today we'd like to welcome the folks from Beezy to kick off the discussion. Maximo Castagno, I'd like to welcome in particular. He's the Chief Product Officer at Beezy, and he's going to be setting the stage for us from Beezy's perspective, looking at the developments across the digital employee experience. Wow, I need my coffee still. Max, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here with all my team. Yeah, this is going to be exciting. A lot to say in very short amount of time.
Great. Well, let's not delay. Go ahead and let's share your screen and get started.
Okay, let me go and share my screen. First thing, let me know when you see a PowerPoint.
We do.
Okay, now I need to move the Zoom control in order to launch the PowerPoint. It always gets where you don't want it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The screen juggling. All right, you're on.
All right. Okay, so the idea for today is to touch upon these three topics. I will introduce myself briefly. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Beezy. I've been a co-founder. I've been working with Jordi, the CEO, for more than 20 years. We started doing our first intranet together in SharePoint technology already, I would say 20 years ago. We started with the inception of what ended up being SharePoint at that time. Maybe the most interesting fact is that my background is not really in technology. I come from the sociology field. I'm a sociologist that ended up being fascinating by seeing how people use technology and how people use technology to work specifically. And that's my background, and this will be, I think, represented in some of the statements throughout my presentation. I will be showcasing our product, not for the sake only of saying that we have a great product, which I believe we do, but really my idea is that you can have takeaways that you will be able to apply to anything that you're doing, no matter if you're buying Beezy or not. It will make more sense if you're using the Microsoft technology, but really I'm trying to be sharing my product perspective on some challenges that I think you will all agree that we face, all of us, no matter what product you're running, no matter what technology or platform you're running. So that's from my quick intro about myself and the session today. Again, I want to make it quite conversational. I like that there is some overtime at the end. We serve customers on all industries, all geographies. We feel very, very comfortable with especially large organizations that have challenges that are kind of global, big workforces around the world. And this is just an example of who we served around the world. We've been in the market for quite some time, so we managed to get a few awards and recognitions. I will, of course, not deep dive into them. Just let you know that normally when people recognize Beezy is for its user experience side of things, and also because of the way that we integrate different tools and this idea of digital workplace or employee experience that I will be diving into. Speaking of which, the idea for today is that I give you a quick intro about how we see the evolution of the digital workplace, kind of the trends that we have been observing throughout, I would say, the 20 years that we have been operating in this market. Not with Beezy, but in my experience with my co-founders, we have really spent the last 20 years in this space. Then we will jump a little bit into the role of teams in this ecosystem, in this digital workplace. We will take a look at the Viva announcement in detail, which is interesting, fascinating, and probably will be the core topic for today. And then we will try to look beyond the Microsoft platform and understand this idea of employee experience a little bit more broadly, and yeah, what can be done beyond the Microsoft platform. As Nicole mentioned, we do have some time for discussion and Q&A at the end, and we have the overtime as well. I will need to go a little bit fast, but no worries. My colleagues are answering questions in the chat, and we have this overtime session, and we can follow up. So this is basically what we've been witnessing during the last, I would say, 20 years. I remember my first intranet that I designed with the team was all about information. At that time, the only digital transformation that companies were doing in this space was to, hey, let's take our policies that are in paper and let's put them somewhere where people can read them digitally and distribute them digitally. And if there is an update, we can update that, and we don't need to reprint and incur in the costs and the hassle of doing that. So it was all about information. That was the first wave. That was really this idea of intranet started there, right? The next wave was when internal comms and HR and all these important stakeholders in the company were looking at using that intranet or that space to also communicate. And this is where articles and news and blogs and all this came into the mix. The next wave was really around the time of the Web 2.0 in the consumer world. So we're talking about some 10, 15 years, where all these blogs and wikis and kind of conversational technologies appeared, and then collaboration say, hey, this is interesting. Maybe an intranet doesn't need to be always formal content. It can be user-generated content, and it can be user-generated content around work. So this idea that then suddenly you don't need this kind of old school intranet. This is the moment where products like Jive and IBM Connections stepped into the market. Also when Yammer was acquired by Microsoft. And more recently, obviously on that space, Slack and then Teams kind of were the big players of that side of things. What we are witnessing already for a couple of years or 3 years, we've been talking about this new wave that is all about transactions. I don't really like the word transaction, but it's broad enough for me to represent this idea that it's not anymore about people talking to people, but it's also people interacting with systems and systems giving feedback back to people. So it's this kind of conversation at work between not only employees, but machines, systems, now artificial intelligence, agents, bots, etc. And this is really the next wave of innovation that we are seeing is happening. And basically what we see here is that the evolution took us from an intranet around the 2000s when we started in this journey, where it was mostly a combination of information and communication. And you had the news, the word clock, or this kind of weird widget that we sometimes see even still today, events, links, and more links. That was it, right? Then 10 years later, because this is a market that moves quite slowly, I would say, we started seeing something that was a combination of these two, but also with the incorporation of a social feed or collaboration, or something that was bringing something else to the mix. And basically, where we see the world heading now, and where we are pointing our product to as well, is on this idea of an integrated employee experience. And I think I remember giving a webinar 2 or 3 years ago already with a big analyst around this idea of the integrated employee experience and the importance of this employee experience as a kind of overall idea around the digital workplace and intranet and all this. And basically what this is basically something that is very modular, that is very personalized, that is really following this idea of a feed that is ever fresh and reacts to whatever is important for the employee throughout the daily journey, but also across the life cycle of joining a company, working for the company, leaving the company, etc., etc. So that's our vision. This is what I will be able to show you a little bit on the demo side of things.
Can I just interrupt you for a minute? So,
sure.
So I mean, you've shown that evolution, and we can see that happening with things moving to a more transactional digital workplace. But we in DWG certainly, and I'm sure everybody on this call, lots of people on this call will be suffering from the fact that there are so many old style intranets out there, and it's just interesting to know your perspective of that. Why is that? Is it all down to just money, or are there other things playing into the mix there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you, Nicole. Actually, we had a conversation between us when we were preparing this webinar, and this was one of the things that kind of chit chat about. And I actually included this in the presentation today. And it's true. We still see many old style kind of intranet that never went through the first two stages of that evolution. And I think the main challenges here are, I mean, the usual suspects that we see when this is happening is this short list. Obviously, problems are more complex than that, and every company is a world, and every company will have its own roadmap to the evolution that we see at the end. But I see problems when companies are using too many tools that are disconnected to each other, or plainly too many tools. Sometimes I see employees that are suffering from this kind of fatigue of, hey, there are too many tools, and then maybe they turn back to email, and then they keep using email as the only tool because of that too much availability. I call this, well, it's not myself, but it's something that exists in the world. It's been explained by a psychologist called Schwartz, which is the paradox of choice. Choice is good, but sometimes when you have too much choice, it's inhibiting behavior, and you don't know what to do, or you have the fear of missing out on something or choosing the right channel. So too many disconnected tools for sure. This kind of top-down approach, when an intranet is too much top-down, too much push, it creates some problems. When it's not personalized enough, it will not be appealing enough for the end employee. So it will go into this kind of vicious cycle where people don't go to the intranet, and because people don't go, it doesn't get updated, doesn't get too much importance internally, and it goes on. Sometimes the problem is around content managers and content creators, all these people that need to be operating behind an intranet or a digital workplace, or the people throughout their employee experience. They need simple tools. They are getting work done, so they need things that are extremely easy, and I would say also engaging or extra engaging. We have to understand that in the digital workplace, we are competing with the attention of the employee in the consumer life. And this is even worse now with the working from home scenarios, right? So the consumer world is trying to grab the attention of every person in the planet, and companies are not understanding that their content, their services, their employee digital journey has to be engaging as well, and tempt them to get in there. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the quick answer. Obviously, it's a short one and a reductive one, but that's how we see things.
Yeah, I know it depends from organization to organization. It's about money, but there's a lot you say there about inertia and it not being important because the old intranets are not really serving a purpose anyway, so people can't really see the benefits of into something.
Yeah.
Really.
And money is a good important factor here, but I would say that it's more on the cultural side as well. This mm-hmm. change has to happen at the cultural side of things. Mm-hmm. Okay, so for me to be able to quickly explain our product, because I don't have the normal time that I will have for a real demo, I will jump into a diagram here that explains a little bit the construction of our product, how we ended up creating our product. We focus first on the user. We focus on this employee experience journey, and the user experience for us is the most important part of our product. Now, we are not only a pretty face on top of SharePoint. We are not one of these nice intranet templates. We have an engine, and this engine is kind of a serious technical layer that is stitching different pieces of the puzzle together. The puzzle being your IT infrastructure and the things that you want to connect. And things like APIs, connectors, all these things will be very, very important. And you will see this throughout the presentation today. And at the end, what we have is a platform or many platforms. And these slides is kind of animated to show you this ever-moving relationship that we have with the platform. So we decided a long time ago that we were going to base our product in Microsoft. We needed a platform to really achieve our vision for this integrated employee experience. So we decided to connect and make our product part of Microsoft 365 and probably most importantly, SharePoint. Okay, so of course there was SharePoint, there was Teams, there was Yammer, at that time there was Delve, there were many initiatives and products that we needed to connect. And more recently, connected to this idea of the Viva announcement, this platform has been it's being reshuffled a little bit. And what Microsoft is doing is that they create these 4 core products around Viva that are somehow connecting as well bits and pieces that were existing in the platform. Now, the importance of this diagram is that part of our work is to make sure that the end user, so the person accessing the first layer in this diagram, doesn't need to know too much about the platform changes, doesn't need to know too much about the exact names of the apps that they're using in the background. And most importantly, they don't get completely disrupted. Every time that there is a big change in the platform, every time that there is a new product out there, what we do in Beezy is that because we have that user experience layer on top of it, we are responsible for connecting every time to the best product that we find in the suite, but ensure that we kind of act as a proxy interface on top of the platform. And the other thing that you see in this animation, and this recently we've been also connecting our product a lot to other platforms. And Microsoft is also doing that as well with the connectors in Viva, for example. So this is what is going on in the background of Beezy. And with that, I will be able to better explain to you the product, and you will be able to understand what happens behind the scenes when I show you the product.
And Max, this is Andrea, just to jump in quickly. I did see some of those logos showing up in that animation. So I know people are probably going to ask questions about what kinds of platforms Beezy easily integrates with. I don't want to sidetrack you now, but maybe we'll dive into that more into the overtime.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I name a couple of them, a few of them, the most usual ones. I will name them. They are the Salesforce, the ServiceNow, Workday, Facebook Workplace, somehow also connected to our product. SAP, Concur, these kind of products are really the ones that we are looking into to bring to this cohesive employee experience. Good. So basically, what I will be showing you now in the demo is kind of summarizing this slide. This is what we consider to be kind of the secret sauce. So before I explain and I answer your question, Nicole, about why is the bad thing happening, this is when the good things are happening. Normally, it's because of this. Normally, you need to set a good balance between push and pull. This is critical. If you go too much into the push side of things and you bombard your employees with information and you don't allow them to decide what they can see, what they want to prioritize, then they will go back to their chat, their email, the things that they can control. Another topic that is interesting is this idea of abstracting the user experience or abstracting the employee experience from the technology, from the platform. Okay, that's something we will be seeing. Bringing consistency and recognizable patterns. You will see how much we try to mimic things that work in the consumer world for our product to be very easy to understand. We when we see success is always when people try to make things easy and simple for the end user, and also make it personal, make it very unique to that employee, that will be unique in his work, in his needs, in his specificities, in his business line, in his location, languages, etc. Okay, so those are kind of the ingredients of what we call the secret sauce. So with that, I will jump into the Beezy demo now. We wanted to make this very hands-on. So I will be using a few browsers here to show you our product as it is today. So this is Beezy. This is the start page, what we call the start page of Beezy. This is the entry point to the employee experience. I will probably zoom out a little bit so you can see the full layout of the page, and you will understand a little bit the parts of the page before I jump into the details here. Okay, so what we see here is something that it's our product out of the box. There is no customization, there is no services, nothing. All you can see here are things that you can do within hours of installing our product. Although usually it takes a bit longer because of these big transitions from a legacy intranet or whatever. But this is what you get with Beezy. It's running on SharePoint here. You can see that I have the full suite of Microsoft 365 in one click away. And basically it's native SharePoint. Our product really, really operates and works inside the Microsoft 365 platform. So the building blocks, I will only be able to show you the surface of the product, and I will be taking some shortcuts here. So I'm showing you the start page, and I will take a few analogies with the consumer world to try to go fast. What you see here with this big block here, it's what we call the hero component at the top. It's a lot of push and a little bit of pull. It's mostly to make sure that employees get informed about the most important things happening in the company, both at a global level and at a local level. We will be talking a lot about these global and local differences. Basically, we serve companies that normally will have headquarters and then many different subsidiaries. Sometimes they will have sub-brands, sub-companies, etc., etc. So it's very important for us to mix these two worlds together. This is the hero. You can see at the top as well that there is a very advanced type of navigation that mixes navigation with content itself, navigation with personalized things like the places for you column here that is really, really looking at the places that you are following. And then features like apps. Oh, I use Salesforce a lot, then I will drag and drop it and have it at hand here, or I will be visiting the store. So the navigation is not only navigation, it's really navigation with content, with functionality, with many other things. As I scroll down here, we will get into this pull world. So this is less push and more pull. This is the newsfeed technology that we have, very advanced technology that we choose to make a core part of our product quite a long time ago. With the different tabs, the things that we can do. Some component here, very interesting, that we call the share box, which is kind of a quick way of creating various type of content. And you will recognize here a few things from the consumer world. Those of you in the UK, I've been living in the UK for a few years, and now I'm back in Barcelona. But I remember how people were really agreeing that the BBC website was a very good source of information, very neutral as well in the UK. I could not make the same analogy with some media outlets in the US. It gets more political, so I won't go there. But this is the BBC of your company. Local, global news, very personalized, sometimes very editorialized and highlighted, sometimes connected to social media outlets, sometimes connected to specific events or things that are happening in the company in technologies like Teams or Yammer, etc., etc. So this is really your internal BBC. And if you scroll down, what you recognize here is this is your internal social network. The best analogy to me is LinkedIn, in the sense that LinkedIn is for work, and we try to do our product really for work. Every tool that you see here are tools for working. Sometimes these tools are connected to products that exist in the Microsoft stack, and sometimes we come up with content like idea campaign or ideas, for example, that are very unique to our product. But the idea is that you are in the social side of things when you are down here, you are in the more formal side of things when you are up here, and then we have lots of other functionality to support all the typical intranet content like guidelines, departmental sites, this idea of having an app store for your employees to understand which are the official apps and have them always at hand, directory to find people. We will go into an example with that. And again, very recognizable. This notification pane is very, very similar to what you see in your notifications in news, in LinkedIn, in Facebook, in Twitter, etc., etc. Again, I cannot go into the full details about this start page, but maybe something that is interesting to comment is that sorry, the newsfeed is a combination of discovery cards, the blue ones that you see here, and follow-up cards. And the discovery cards are the push side of things, and the white cards are the pull side of things. Let me quickly go and grab some water. I'll be back in 1 minute.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you think.
I was looking at, and maybe some of the Beezy folks can jump in on the chat about the video that looks like it's supported not only in that upper section of the, you know, sort of push content, but also, so I see that first, what is smart energy? You know, the feed also supporting video, which feels very, you know, consumer-like to me. How about you, Nicole?
Yeah, so
I like the blue cards. Sorry, Maximo, we're just talking about
I'm back.
Okay, I'll let Max answer that.
Yeah, so I was just mentioning the fact that our newsfeed technology is kind of mixing these two worlds. Again, similarly to what advertising is doing very effectively in social networks. And what these discovery cards do here is that, hey, they take you out of your day-to-day, which is these other cards that you're following, and they foster serendipity. They allow you to discover things that you might have otherwise overlooked if we didn't have this ever-changing flow, because they will be shuffling and appearing and disappearing. Obviously, some are more fixed in the UI, so they're more structured, but many of them will be appearing and disappearing, or appearing on certain circumstances. And basically, we mimic exactly what advertising is doing by injecting bits and pieces of information in a relevant, personalized newsfeed experience. So this is the Beezy product. We will see some other parts of the Beezy product throughout the presentation, and also when I show you this operating also in Teams. What I also want to make sure that you understand, I will make it now 100%, is that we don't not only take care of the employee end user side of things, but we also take very seriously the management of all this, and the governance of all this, and the scalability of all this. What I'm showing you here is an example of how a global admin will be deciding to manage this hero component that I show you there. Later on, we will be talking about local entities, organizational structure, audiences, etc. But this hero component is just now showing you exactly how easily it is for an admin to really change things here, modify, update things, change the widget, change the banner, decide which stories will be the local ones, the global ones, etc., etc. And there is some governance embedded as well here. because this responsibility of managing this will be kind of splitted between a global admin and a local admin if your company requires to operate in these global and local parameters and settings. The result of this will be that another employee in another part of the world, now I'm joining with another user here or even with another user here, and you see that this user is getting the same product, but maybe a different layout for the hero component. Obviously, he will get some very different newsfeed because the newsfeed is very personalized, but also the hero gets very related to his location. Maybe the navigation gets really focused on her specific North America region because HR is something that has to be treated in a very local way. Maybe there is an important announcement happening only in North America, and therefore we are only showing you this in this specific group of, to this specific audience, to this specific group of people. Now, let's imagine that there is something important going on here, and I will act as this general admin, and there has been some kind of security breach or exposure or something like that. I have an announcement here that I will make bigger than the one that you've seen there. I will enable it. I will save and close. I will update. There will be a warning here and saying, hey, you are a global admin that is going to change things in the UI of many different people. This is something that you do across the world. So it's important. Yes, let's do it. And the next step, the next thing that will happen is that this person now will have a global announcement push to her hero and taking over the overall hero experience here. And the moment they see this content that they want to get rid of the content, they are back into their reality. And if I now access with another user, like I did before with my user, if I go to the start page, I also see this announcement on top of my ribbon. So some things are very specific to a user. Some things are common to all the users. You could even have separate brandings and sub-brandings for all these pages and start pages, but all this is managed by Beezy in a very easy way, but always in SharePoint. Everything that you've seen here, everything is SharePoint.
And Max, I noticed when you had that announcement banner come up, there was a tick box for schedule. So are admins able to schedule off and on times for all of these elements?
Absolutely. Those are kind of the at scale things and features that Beezy provides on top of the platform. Of course, you can do some of the things here in SharePoint, but Beezy is really this extra layer that is bringing a lot of this functionality. For example, here, scheduling, etc. Okay. Let me quickly jump into the final part of this. One thing that I wanted to show is the editing of the stories. Let me go back here and grab one of these stories. This user has
I was just, while you're getting that set up, Max, I know that we've got a lot of questions coming through in the chat about targeting and audiences and, you know, using global languages and things like that. So I think that we could probably have quite a good discussion about that in overtime. So I know that Beezy guys will be answering some of those questions in chat, but we can also take that into overtime as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just be aware.
1 second. I'm finding an article that I have here that has more or less all the formatting. So again, we try to make things very, very simple for the content creators. As I mentioned before, you can see here the view, very engaging for the readers, but very importantly, very easy to update, create, and do everything. What you're seeing now is the content creator view, okay? Very similar to the one that the user will experience with a few differences. I will trim a little bit the look and feel or the style of the story. You can see that I can really go as far as making this extremely visual, extremely engaging. And you will see here that I have added Google Maps, but also a trending podcast about this article. And you can see here as well that because we are very, very visually oriented and almost to the detail or to the obsession, I would say, you can go into this image preview mode, and you will be able to control really every instance of an image to make sure that the best angle of this bike, or you don't cut the CEO's nose, or any annoyances that you can get when you are dealing with images in a very visual way in this kind of visually engaging.
I was just going to ask you about the mobile version, so perfect. Thanks for showing
perfect. That. Okay. By the way, the mobile version is something that I also have at hand. This will be the way that people will experience everything that I show you here in the mobile world. This is an iPad that I have here. It's really the iPad showing, my iPad that I have in my hand, showing all the functionality that I showed you before, with the story side of things, with the newsfeed side of things that we went and we covered before, with the discovery cards, with the notifications, and so much more that I unfortunately cannot show during this session today. Okay. So with that, we can go back to the PowerPoint and continue with the topics. I'm a little bit late on time, so I will need to go a bit fast now. Okay, so how does Microsoft Teams fit in this relationship, or in this situation, this employee experience? What our approach tries to do is we try to be multi-channel, right? The same way that now brands and products in the consumer world will talk about the customer experience in a multi-channel approach, the same way we do it. The desktop for us is very important and kind of a primary way of accessing our product, but the moment that mobile appeared, for us, it was yet another channel. We also cater a lot for the employees in the front line. We have a kiosk mode view of our product that could be in digital signage, that could be appearing in this kind of kiosk. So we do try to expose and expose our product in all the channels that we want. And obviously, Teams has been a very prominent channel lately. We will all agree that it has become the most important channel, in the sense that it is where work gets done in today's world, especially after the changes of the last year, with the working from home, with all these meetings and events happening in Teams. This channel is very important for us. I will not go too much in the details. I will prefer to jump into the demo side of things. I always try to show the product as it is. But just for you to understand, we have a dual approach. We bring Beezy to Teams, and we also bring Teams to Beezy. And these are examples that I had at hand of things that Teams, how we are going to surface Teams, or how we are today surfacing Teams in Beezy, and how Beezy is also surfaced in Teams. And with that, I will jump into the next part of the demo, which is all happening in Teams this time. I need to get rid of the Zoom control in order to be able to access. Oh, I will do this. Let me do this. Okay. And what you're seeing here is Teams. This is really Teams as it is today. It can be in your desktop, but also the same thing will happen in your mobile phone. And what we have here is a dedicated app. You see the SmartWay app is the Beezy app in reality. And what you see here is that we are really trying to bridge the intranet side of world of work with the project and team collaboration side of work. So one of these ideas where we are very, very much aligned with Microsoft, not only with Viva, but before that with the Yammer app and with other apps, is this idea of, hey, if Beezy has a very, very nice BBC type of consuming the news, why don't you bring them to Teams? And here they are. Here is the personalization that I was talking to you before. This is how I manage my mandatory channels. Some channels will be imposed to me with all these news and stories. Some channels, it will be me deciding if I want to see them or not. I can follow some tags. I can set some language preferences, all these cool things that I showed you before. And everything is available here. You were asking me about the video before. If there is a video here, I will be able to show and play the video directly from here. But also access the full story and read one of these stories that I showed you before, with all the content in it and with absolutely everything that comes with it.
And I'm seeing the globe icon in the upper right. Does that open up your browser and bring you the intranet?
Yeah, exactly. So the moment you go to one of these globes, you are really in the Beezy web
in the
side
browser.
of things. Yeah. The same for pages. I didn't have time today to go too much into the pages side of the product, but let's imagine that I'm looking for some kind of company policies around travel, and most specifically around travel expenses. We have a very, very sophisticated way to navigate, find content, create content, distribute content. And again, all this is SharePoint. So Beezy is orchestrating different types of content. Beezy is making extremely easy to consume and to create content, but everything that you see here ends up living in SharePoint and Microsoft 365. And what you're seeing here is the view of this inside the Teams app that we provide, as an example of yet another channel where our content can reach the employee. I will browse to our kind of organizational sites or departmental sites. You can see that I can have divisions, locations, initiatives. And when I click on one of these nodes or one of these sites, what I get is some kind of a landing page of an aggregative layer around things that you've seen already. So this is an example around cybersecurity. With some kind of static content at the top, some kind of quick entry point to something that is going on. That was the attack that I mentioned before. But then we have these dynamic modules where all the stories of a specific channels, we are basically bringing the BBC here, right? We bring the BBC to one of these channels inside the app, inside Teams, the same with pages, and maybe the same with other things like team structure, etc. So all this content that Beezy manages, all this content that Beezy orchestrates is somehow exposed in this Beezy Teams app as a way to integrate with Teams and as a way to enhance the employee experience, no matter where the employee is.
A question for you on the integration. So I know, as an example, with Teams, when you've got the Yammer app, you'll get Yammer notifications within your Teams activity feed. So if you've got Beezy in there, is it pulling all the notifications that are happening from those other third-party systems and putting them into that Teams activity feed?
Yes, exactly. So our newsfeed technology is ready to be able to connect to other newsfeeds, and we have this idea of aggregating different products and provide this kind of single pane of view to whatever is happening in the platform. So yes, absolutely. That's kind of the motivation of our product, is to make things simpler and deal in a very effective way with what could be considered noise if you don't have a product like Beezy. All right, so let's jump into the core of the subject. A few weeks ago, Microsoft announced Viva. For us, this is a great, exciting moment. We've been talking about employee experience for a long time, and finally, there is a big technology player directly in front of everyone saying, hey, the world has changed. Employee experience is something that needs to be a priority, is something that needs to be front and center in this digital experience and digital workplace that is, for many of us, the only workplace that we can experience. So we are super excited about this. Viva today is these 4 distinct apps that run in team. Okay, Viva Topics, Viva Connections, Learning, and Insights. And we have super nice and cool and innovative ways of leveraging and interconnecting our product with these 4 apps that were presented. And that's what we were going to show you. Yep.
Maximo, just to interrupt there, I mean, Viva's bringing another 4 apps. I mean, that's quite a lot. You know, Teams has got a lot of apps already. Or
yes.
365, you know, so are you finding it quite hard to deal with that amount of sort of
I think it's a key question. That's a really good question, Nicole. I think I understand why Microsoft is delivering Viva in Teams, but you are right that Teams it's first, it's a chat-oriented tool, which is probably not the best place to deliver some of these more kind of broader, more calm, more structured, more perennial type of content like in Viva. So there are pros and cons, but definitely something that worries us. So this is connected to the multi-channel approach. It's good to have Teams as yet another channel, what you're going to be delivering on this employee experience. But I do have the same kind of doubts of, is Teams not overcrowded enough? Is there not enough kind of app fatigue to now launch 4 more distinct apps? Yeah.
I think that'll be quite interesting.
That's a real concern.
Yeah, we could speak about that in the overtime as well, I think. Thanks.
Okay. So why we are so excited? Well, first, because Viva is being built in a platform way, and that's great for us. That's why we like to work with Microsoft. And we only work, we have a product that only works in the Microsoft platform. And this is where it pays off because they're thinking about Viva not as a finished product. Actually, Gers Pataro was presenting Viva as an employee experience platform. And we are this employee experience solution on top of the platform, which I will be explaining a bit in detail. We are ready for it. We are ready for Viva. I think we are the product in the market that is the most deeply entrenched into the platform and more native to the platform. So we are ready for Viva. We have a new channel for us with Viva in this approach of the multi-channel thing. We share the same vision about the employee experience. We split the work very well and complement each other. And finally, we think we will give superpowers to the employee experience. And I hope I will prove this to you in the next slides. Platforms and solutions have always existed. All the big software categories have platforms and solutions, and the combination of them is what makes the real big leap in terms of employee experience. Platforms are very important because they define categories. For example, in this instance, an employee experience. They create standards. We are very, very happy that Viva is really leveraging the adaptive cards framework that Microsoft created. The bot framework also is something that we're using a lot. This is very good to have these kind of standards, and we are very happy about these standards in the platform. The platform also provide the building blocks, and they do the heavy lifting. This is what some people don't understand. Some people will complain that SharePoint is complex, and yes, it can be complex, but because they are doing complex things. SharePoint and Microsoft 365 is dealing with authentication, with search, with analytics, with security, with intelligence, with so many complex things at a platform level that can only be done at a platform level that, yeah, they will always tend to be complex somehow as platforms. And then the other important thing is that when I said platforms, I'm not only talking about Microsoft. We are always connecting to these other platforms, our solution. And now solutions, which is these 2 layers that I presented before, are so important because we kind of cover the last UX mile that I call. Basically, we make platforms simple, and you don't need to deal with the complexity of so many things and so many things that you can do with an event in SharePoint, for example, or in Outlook, or in Planner, with a task in Planner. We try to be minimalistic when it comes to user experience and make things very simple. Then we also plug feature gaps. Everything that you've seen around the global and local, the hero. By the way, I hope that my colleagues can share with you a video about a recent version, because it's a very short video that explains very well global and local and the hero and all this novelty that we brought into the product very recently. And I think it will be explained much better than what I did in my demo. The bot technology, we work a lot on the idea management and innovation. We have this idea of the sharebox, newsfeed, action cards, many things that I show you in the demo and that I could be showing you that are really features that don't exist in the platform itself. We can also stay more nimble and react more quickly to some of the market trends, again, because we are not doing the heavy lifting, because we are not a platform. We can adapt our product to the trends easily. And finally, we offer more customization options, your brand, your culture, your business, as opposed to platforms that, because of their pure nature, sometimes they will be more of a one-size-fits-all kind of approach. And again, it's not their fault. It's by nature. It's because they are complex, heavy lifting platforms. So let's see how Viva could work in action with Beezy today. I cannot jump into a demo environment because Viva is not a reality today. Viva is today still a promise. The only product that has been shipped of Viva today is Viva Topics in the form of an evolution of SharePoint Project Cortex. But I will be showing you just one feature. Maybe I don't have time for more, but just one feature that represents how we are going and are already working with Viva. One example, imagine that you want to find a skillful colleague that might help you with something in your work. Of course, there is a user profile in the platform. Of course, there is Delve and the Office 365 profile, and there is something there where users can put their skills. But let's be honest, who does that? Who goes there and adds and keeps updated their own skills? What we did in Beezy is that we really mimic what was trending in the consumer world with LinkedIn. And we did an endorsement system where it's not you saying what you know, but the social network around you saying that you are a specialist in this example of marketing strategy or digital marketing. And this makes a big difference when it comes to having this profile updated and accurate when you want to use it for other colleagues to benefit and find you and help you with something. Now, we also have a bot technology that allows you to have this kind of conversation. I will zoom in here and I will show you, hello, how can I help you, says the bot. Who knows about a specific LiDAR technology of this company? Let me find someone. This is important. The bot is understanding in natural language processing that this looks like a question to find the help of a colleague. So, of course, we cannot run a search and overwhelm the user with too many users. So what we do is that we base our suggestions on the social endorsements. So it's not Beezy going and querying and making a quick dumb search in SharePoint and finding people with that skill. It's saying, hey, this lady here seems to be the most appropriate suggestion for you to find help on LiDAR sensors technology. And then there is this person that has a little bit less endorsement, but still very much endorsed in a very similar or related technology as well. So this is a very interesting capability that we have today in our bot technology. And we are very happy about that. And we think that it's very useful. But now let's think beyond our product today. And let's imagine that we start tapping into the intelligence of Viva Topics, and we say, hey, let's make the accuracy of our bot much better. And let's combine our socially oriented technology here, the social side of who knows about what, with the more formal ways of determining in a company who are the experts on a specific topic. And this is where we are planning to connect. This is one example where we are planning to connect the Viva Topics functionality, but maybe also Viva Learnings, because maybe you found people, but you also find a course in Coursera or LinkedIn that has just been unlocked around one of these topics, and that will make sense to be suggested to the user. Again, this is just one idea and how we are thinking about the platform. We are already playing with the platform. Things like having this topics card is something that we already have in the product today. We plan to enhance that card. We plan to augment the topic page in Viva. That's something we're looking into. We are planning to bring the topics to our search as well in the product. We are planning to connect our tags with the topics in Viva as well in the share box. I'm a bit late now. I cannot go into all the details, but maybe some of these slides, I can pull them up again during the overtime session and show you a little bit more.
Max, obviously we're up at the hour and I know some people will be needing to leave. So
yeah.
Put a survey and things in the chat. So if you're able to fill that, that would be very helpful. But hopefully lots of people will be able to stay on to look at this demo here and to sort of, we'll have 20 minutes or so at questions at the end, which will just be down to questions. So hopefully a lot of you guys will be able to stay for that.
Yeah, so keep going, Max. Don't feel like we're pressed for time.
2, 3, 4 more minutes to finish with the structure, and then we will do that, and we will hopefully jump back into all these super interesting topics. We are so excited that we put too much maybe in this presentation.
Yeah, and the chat is going really quickly, and there are lots of questions, so that's
good,
really
good. All right, so remember this, we talked about this evolution, we talked about this important wave that was already coming a few years ago and is here to stay. This is the one that beyond the Microsoft is more relevant, because when we were talking about intranet, when we were talking about information, communication, and collaboration, it didn't matter too much that we were talking only about something that happened in the Microsoft platform. But when we go into this world of microtransaction, microservices, intelligence that needs to be connected, this is where we need to start looking beyond the Microsoft platform. And products like Salesforce, ServiceNow, Workday, or Facebook Workplace, and I could be naming more of them, they have become crucial in the digital workplace of many of our customers, especially large customers that, for example, if you are a sales-oriented company, Salesforce will be probably as big as your Microsoft technology platform. So we need to look into that. And this is what was the last part of this layer in the 3 slides. So let's see again this with just a demo. It's getting more and more risky for me to do these demos because they imply more and more technology, but hopefully everything will go well here. I am in Teams. I will be opening a chat with the bot in Teams, which is what I showed you before. Remember this idea of finding someone, etc. And this time I'm gonna call the bot and say, hi there. Sorry for the caps. I don't do that normally with humans, so I will not do it with the bot. He's here, he's listening. I need some time off. And I'm going fast, maybe I'm misspelling something, but he's getting the idea. Again, this idea of capturing the intent of the user. And in this case, the intent is connected to a real business process and an integration with Workday in this fake SmartWay company. So Workday is managing all these leave requests and the HR side of things. So yes, I do want to fill a leave request. What is the description? What is happening? I'm feeling a bit sick. And of course, in my phone, I could be using the voice here to say this. From when? Today. It will ask me until when. I would say tomorrow. Again, here, it's natural. It's a natural conversation that gets translated into data points that get sent to the real tool that is managing this. So all this data capture in the natural conversation is now transmitted in a very formal way by the bot technology with a connector into the Workday world. And now I will be using another account of a colleague of mine that is my manager. And when I refresh the newsfeed, this is where the action cards that I mentioned before kick in. We have a framework to incorporate this kind of systems to people and people-to-people conversation. So this is the bot saying, hey, there is a workflow for you, Xavi, and only for you this time. This is not in a community. This is only for you because you are the manager of Maximo Castagno. He's feeling sick, and from this day, he's trying to get a leave request approved. And I can approve, reject. Of course, I will approve here because I empathize with Max.
You're kind,
and this is being sent directly back to Workday. So we are not replacing Workday, of course. We are not storing information. We are not doing anything. What we are doing is enabling this employee experience that we think is the most integrated one, not only because we offer this kind of very user experience oriented newsfeed, but also because we bring together everything that happens in the Microsoft platform and beyond with this example. This manager is also managing some other business processes. So you get a sense here of the ideas that I could be showing you if I had more time with ServiceNow, with a discount approval in Salesforce, and so on and so on. But with that, I have covered the basics of my topic today. I went a bit over time. Sorry about that, but I hope I got you interested into this.
No, that's great. Thanks, Maximo. So it was a really fascinating session, and there's so much to look into there. I can understand why it's quite hard to squeeze so much into an hour. You know, that's a very tricky task. You know, so thanks everybody for joining us today so far. So we've got a couple of questions that we're going to ask Max now, and then we're going to start sort of opening it up to the floor. Now, it depends on how many people stay really, because we've got lots of people in the call, which we're really happy to see. So I think how we'll do it is we'll keep everybody on mute, and then we'll ask the questions for you to sort of have a bit of, so we can make sure everybody's heard really. And then, but then if we feel that we need to, we can take you off mute and you can ask something directly. So I think we'll just start asking some of the questions that we know they've already been submitted to us, but we've not been able to get to yet. So I'll kick that off. Are you okay, Max? Because if you had a breath, and I can.
Yes, I drank some water. I'm fine again.
Yeah. So these are questions from Ernesto, which were really good because he'd submitted them in advance, so he gets extra brownie points and a gold star for that, I think. So yeah, and I know some of them you would have touched on in the session already. So these questions are: what are the overlaps between Viva and Beezy? So what is the differentiation between Beezy obviously than what Viva's going? And honestly, you don't know all that yet because Viva's
no, it's a really good question, and there will always be some overlapping. So when I explain the solutions and platform thing, I think it's important to understand that there will always be some kind of implied overlapping between a solution and a platform. That's kind of by nature, and we are okay with that. One thing that we will never do is to reinvent the wheel. So let me give you an example. Now that Planner and To Do are being combined, we are going to forget about our tasks management side of things in the product, and we are already moving all that into Planner and To Do. It doesn't make for us to redo things that Microsoft will do. So anything in Viva that is well done, well executed, and that our customers like and enjoy, we will leverage that and try not to repeat that. Okay. In any aspect where we see a difference, we do something else, we do something slightly different, we will push on that and provide as much value as our customers are really telling us that they get from it. So if I go back to Viva, I will tell you that out of the 4 blocks, for sure, we are not overlapping at all with insights and learning. Those are areas where we never went into. A few years ago, we were a bit tempted to go into the e-learning space. And then we said, hey, don't go there. There are pure players. This is complex. Don't try to do too much. Let's focus on what we do the right way. So the same with analytics, the same with search. So analytics and insights. Insights is very much aligned with analytics and reporting. And of course, it goes a little bit into the well-being side of things that is very interesting. But again, those are things that have to happen at a platform level. And we are fine, and we will never overlap with these two. With topics, we overlap a little bit. You've seen that we have this kind of taxonomy side of things in Beezy. I would say that it's more oriented towards a folksonomy, something that is very flexible and very kind of organically morphing in the company. Our tags, they are very, very kind of user-generated tags in most of our features. In others, not so much. In storage, for example, they're not so much user-driven. And Viva Topics is much more of a control taxonomy. The nature of Viva Topics is to be able to formalize and control that corpus of knowledge. I know that they refer sometimes as the Wikipedia of your company. It's funny because we do the same with our pages technology. I think, yes, Viva Topic has some kind of Wikipedia side of things, but much more formal. So there is a little bit of overlapping, but there is a lot of complementarity. So Viva Topics, as you've seen in some of these examples that I show you with these mockups that I didn't have the time to go into the detail, but those mockups are showing you exactly that. Maybe you are trying to mention a colleague, or maybe you're trying to make to add a tag to your content, and you get to know that this acronym that you were using as a tag, this acronym is actually a Viva topic. And then you say, okay, makes sense. I will connect this content to the Viva topic instead of my informal acronym.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's quite, fully integrated, and you're trying to do the things that you do best rather than recreate things that someone else might be doing a better.
And connection is a little bit more complicated, because connections, I would say that in theory there is more overlap, but what we are seeing is that when connections is fully deployed at its full potential, we are totally fine with deprecating some parts of our technology. For example, if the dashboard technology that Microsoft is presenting now is at some point as good as our newsfeed technology, we are totally fine with giving up on that and taking care of the user in the next step. What happened when they click on one of these cards of the dashboard in connections? And at that point, we will be ready to provide value, innovation, etc.
So basically, Microsoft's catching up with you, and then when they get with you, then you go to the next.
Exactly. And we've been doing this for years. You cannot imagine how many times people were telling, hey guys, hey Beezy guys, what are you going to do now that Microsoft bought Yammer, for example? And that this was 10 years ago, and we're still here. We are doing better than ever, and we're having a lot of fun, and we need the platform. We made a very conscious decision in our product to create a product like Beezy inside a platform. So we are super excited about Viva.
That's good.
That's a good segue, since you brought up Yammer, because we did have a couple of questions in the chat, and I know David has been nice enough to jump in. And I see Ernesto's got his camera on. I don't know, Ernesto, if you're able to come off mute if you wanted to ask anything more about Yammer.
Yes, thanks. So basically, the question we have is, we're in Jive. We're thinking of using probably Beezy. So should we just use Beezy and MS Teams and the Office 365, or should we open up Yammer and Beezy and Teams? And the major question I have is, MS Teams live events, you cannot answer what people ask. All of the questions are anonymous. You cannot answer to the questions. So the users feel frustrated. In Yammer live events, you can answer to the questions from the others. So the question is, what should we do? Should we open up Yammer just for this specific use case, or should we stick to Beezy? So there's like a use case that we need to probably navigate around that.
Yeah, and I think it has to do with these three layers that I depicted in the slide, right? So there is the platform level that will always have different apps. Some apps will be overlapping. Some apps will be missing some functionality that is important for the user. And in your case, because we are coming from a specific platform that probably your employees have been using for a long time, it's even more important to have this layer that is kind of abstracting from the platform and connecting the dots together. My quick suggestion, without this will require, of course, a bit more of an analysis and then see what's going on. But my quick suggestion was, hey, if you're coming from Jive, you will really enjoy the fact that Beezy is prepared for that. A few years ago, we prepared our product to migrate customers from both IBM connections and Jive. And we were lucky because these two platforms were kind of copying each other. So it was kind of easy for us to cover both of them. And it made a lot of sense for us to cover them. So I think you will enjoy a lot the Beezy layer to bring across all your legacy and also to make the transition smoother to all your employees. But I do think that over time, Beezy on its own will start disconnecting some things from SharePoint, some things from our own communities, and reconnect to Yammer and to live events and to more things. So I will tell you this: try to put that burden on us if you can. That will be my quick answer.
Okay, thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you.
I don't know if anybody else wants to come off or sort of say that they want to come off mute and speak to the team here, but I know we've got some other questions that were sent in advance. So, so if we're looking at the, you know, global, local issue really that you touched on quite early on in the presentation, and if we're talking about people being integrated, so different companies get bought out and they get integrated, how does Beezy, can Beezy deal with that, with like trying to integrate different subsidiaries into one digital workplace? I mean, that's DWG does a lot of consulting, and I'm working with a client at the moment, and that's something that they tend to struggle with, you know, so it'll be quite interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a good question, because sometimes our features are not really completely understood. Sometimes, again, because you know that effect, you know, when I was showing our user experience layer, and I mentioned that we are not just a pretty face, sometimes we get into that situation. Because our face is pretty, we get into that situation where people think that we are just a pretty face. And the global and local functionality is just, it's a real example of the power of Beezy, the sophistication of our software when it comes to dealing with these kind of very large scale deployments of a digital workplace that needs to take into account not one company, but many companies across the globe in many languages. In some areas, one language will be the default language, but in some areas, that default language, I mean, try to convince a French guy that English is the default language, right? So these kind of situations and complexity, this is exactly what we have tackled with the feature of global and local. And then there is something else. Maybe there is a kind of a fight or a power balance that you need to find between what headquarters thinks that is important for each subsidiary and what each subsidiary cares about, right? And at the end, there is an employee. There is an employee that can only handle some amount of information and signals throughout the day because he's busy and because his consumer life is capturing his attention. Again, this is why the consumer has to make us think a lot. If social networks are doing such advanced, complex things to capture a slice of the attention of the consumer throughout the day, digitally, what should we do at work? We need to have a very sophisticated system. And that's exactly what we have created with our global and local examples. Companies are capable of offering a very distinct user experience to different employees across the globe, but still keep a lot of governance and a lot of editorial capabilities to decide who sees what and with what layout and even look and feel. We can allow customers to have sub-brands, and they are using one product, they are using one Microsoft 365 platform, but it looks like each one of those employees got the intranet that they wanted, or the digital workplace that they wanted.
Yeah, so following on from that and trying to get it to that granular level, a lot of it depends on the push and pull or the targeting that you were speaking about earlier as well. And I know that a lot of companies really struggle with their data really, and pulling that in from different HR systems and trying to get that ready. So I'm sure you've had examples of that where you've had to, well, that's a bit of a struggle for a company. So like, how does Beezy then support your clients and through this transition? And that's just one example, but I'm sure there's lots of others where you have to work through that. That's a real struggle for people. They sometimes buy a solution and then they're just left to sort of deal with these things by themselves.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a big topic, because we have a product that is very connected to changing the way that companies work. That's a big concern for us. So if we deploy our product and it doesn't work, we have a problem, right? And sometimes if you only deploy your product, if you think that it's only the technology side of things that needs to be enabled, it doesn't work, right? And that's why we came up with a complete a methodology about deploying a product like Beezy. And we have a dedicated team for each customer that is doing what we call customer success. And for example, things like the last part of my presentation where I was showing this integration, I was just showing you one example with one use case about a leave request being managed between Workday, Beezy, Microsoft, the bot, Teams, etc. Now, imagine this multiplied by thousands possible integrations, because we thought about this in a way that it's flexible. It's not that we have one connector and one integration with Workday. We created a framework, and because we created a framework to cope with different use cases, with different third-party tools and with different specific integrations, we need to take our customers by the hand and tell them, hey, these are 3 examples, the Salesforce one, the Service one now, and the Workday now. Now, let us help you find your examples. And maybe you will start with 5 examples that will be very successful. And then employees will come to you and say, hey, can we do this with this other tool? Can we spread out this idea into the rest of the use cases of my day-to-day? And that's our approach.
Thank you.
That's great. I'm just looking at the chat. People are quiet. They must be enthralled with our conversation. You talked a little bit about data, and obviously you've got these connectors to pull together the different systems. What about companies like in financial services as an example, or healthcare, where security and privacy are really important to them and highly regulated? Can you speak a little bit to how Beezy helps those customers?
Yeah, also a good question, because I mentioned before that at some point long ago, we were kind of competing with Yammer, not anymore today, but at some point in the old days, we were kind of competing with Yammer. At that time, our advantage was that we were capable of deploying our product on premises. And that's something that we kept on our product. So that's something that we always took very careful. We know that there are lots of companies that are capable of jumping to cloud technology, to more open technology that can open up their IT systems in a very agile way. But we know that the reality for a lot of our customers that usually tend to be large organizations, it's not that easy. So our product, the product that I show you today, of course, I show you the cloud version of it, the Office 365 version of it, but it can also be deployed in an on-prem scenario. For example, we have financial institutions that will prefer to deploy Beezy in an on-prem scenario. And we're totally fine with that. And we support that scenario because we understand that complexity and that need. And then we even have recently deployed our product in this thing called the GC, maybe my colleagues will help me, the government cloud that Microsoft has for government institutions. And this is even more complicated. This pushed everything to yet another big level. But we do have a product that, because of its nature and the nature of the customers that we serve, those are big concerns. So definitely something that we cover better than many other products in the market, and any strange combination of a mobile MDM platform with an on-prem setup that needs to be connected to something else through kind of a gateway. It's part of our reality in many customers. Not all of our customers, but many of our customers, it's part of our reality. And we usually tend to win those deals because of our way to cope with these scenarios. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, I think we're out of time, Maximo, which is unfortunate because we could speak a lot more, I think. I think we've covered out most questions. I know that the Beezy guys are still going there, you know, so if you haven't had your question asked, please just highlight that and we'll make sure we'll get onto that, and certainly there can be follow-ups and things if people want that too. So that was a really, really, you know, great. There's always so much to cover and so many more questions, but it's always good to just get a bit of a start and you know, continue the conversation externally, hopefully. So should we call it a wrap then, Andrea?
I think so, yes. Thank you so much, Maximo and the Beezy team, for joining us today. As Nicole mentioned, it's been a really great conversation, lots to talk about. So again, if you have questions, you can throw them in the chat. You'll of course be getting communication from us after the session, and there's a survey link. Maybe we can pop that back into the chat box again. But just a little bit about DWG quickly before we close out. Rose, can you go to the next slide? Rose is probably juggling 5 things at the same time. You know, just to keep in top of mind for people, if you enjoyed today's conversation, and we hope you did, you can get even more of these insights and technology examples through other programs and services that the Digital Workplace Groups offers. We offer membership, benchmarking, and consulting services. And you can visit our website, obviously, digitalworkplacegroup.com for more on that, or you can also email Nicole or myself or chat with us in the chat panel. And speaking of great content, our founder and CEO, Paul Miller, and our Director of Knowledge, Shimrit Jains, have just released a new book called The Nature of Work. And it's quite fascinating. It's a coffee table sized book and styled book, but it's actually a business book. And it uses 12 elements of nature as a framework to discuss the world of work and the living age and the digital age, as Maximo mentioned in his presentation. You know, with the pandemic, the digital workplace is the workplace. And so we've still got all these other external factors going on. How does that come together? So the book is available now at all your favorite outlets, and you can visit the Nature of Work website for more information on the book, as well as upcoming activities and things that will be going on surrounding this topic. And so with that, I think we'll say thank you, and it's a wrap. Nicole, it's been great. Maximo, thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.